Доброго дня.
Good afternoon, dear friends, those who are here today and those who watch us online. Now the topic, how Russia can be brought to account for deporting locals from the occupied Crimea. Our guest, Martynovskyi, expert NGO Regional Center for Human Rights, Oleksandr Kovalchuk, inhabitant of Crimea who was affected, and Lischyna, Deputy Minister of Justice of Ukraine, Commissioner for UCHR issues, and Ihor Ponochovnyi, Deputy Prosecutor of the Autonomous Republic of Crimea. Welcome. Good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen. In the result of occupation of Crimea and Sevastopol by Russian Federation and the wish to inhabit this territory by loyal population, they tried to purge this territory. In the active phase of occupation, Russian Federation started to squeeze out the population who was not loyal to the regime that was established. Here we are speaking about Ukrainians and Crimean Tatars who were forced to leave this territory, and leaving the peninsula, they became IDPs in the territory of mainland Ukraine. After annexation, this policy continued. We see that now this process is ongoing. People are leaving the territory. They go to the mainland Ukraine and to the territory of other nations. In summer 2014, going forward this policy, the Russian Federation expelled several thousands of Ukrainian prisoners who served their sentences in the territory of Crimea in penitentiary facilities that were placed there in times of occupation. And in July 2014, a new mechanism was in place to purge the territory. The mechanism that was used by courts in occupied territories. We are speaking about deportation and expulsion of both Ukrainians and foreigners from that territory for some alleged violations of migration rules that were established by Russian Federation for this territory. So why it was July 2014, not earlier? Because Russian Federation, they count 90 days during which foreigners are allowed to stay in the territory of Russian Federation. So they have this day starting 18th of March 2014. So this taking into account the agreement of between Russia and Crimea, and that Crimea joins Russia, and those bodies that are responsible for these rules, they started to conclude such rules, and they submitted these cases to the courts, and the process of deportation started. The Regional Center for Human Rights, the organization I represent, we focused our attention on the fact that this process became systemic and was on large scale, and we started our research to understand the grounds for expulsion of civilians from the territory. So we understood that this is the grave violation of Article 49 of Fourth Geneva Convention, and we believe that this is a military crime, and we started our investigation. So we carried out this survey, and we concluded this research recently, and we covered the period of June 2014 till May 2018. I would like to say that the Code of Administrative Offenses of Russian Federation provide 23 grounds for expulsion. We established that concerning this category of cases, the courts took 9,548 decisions. So these decisions were reviewed as of 31st of May 2018, and also 2,425 people were expelled, both Ukrainians and foreign citizens. The citizens of 37 nations were expelled, and 4 people, stateless persons. So we identify those cases, and we have full data about these people, and we know the grounds for the court decisions. We have copies of the court decisions, and we have a lot of interviews with the victims, and we have a lot of cases, administrative cases, and copies of administrative cases from the occupied territories. Speaking about the number of citizens of Ukraine who were expelled, we have 1,008 people who were expelled, the citizens of Ukraine. About political motives, I would like to draw your attention to the fact that political motives are present in this process of expulsion and deportation. Among the most prominent cases, I would like to mention the case of Sinevera Kadyrov, Nemira Khamilov, Konstantin Syzarev. Maybe you heard about those cases. These are the cases. If we are speaking about Mr. Syzarev, Konstantin Syzarev, he was detained in the Center of Temporary Detention of Foreign Citizens for some time before he was expelled to the territory of Ukraine that is controlled by Ukrainian government. If we are speaking about Mr. Khalilov, he was held in 3 detention facilities for 1.5 years, and then he was brought to the territory of Uzbekistan. If we are speaking about Kadyrov, this is about well-known activist. He was expelled in 2014 from the territory of Crimea, and we believe that these violations, these are military crimes covered by Article 47, and also they are covered by Rome Statute Article number 8.2.8. So this expulsion is systemic and is of large scale, and also there are signs of military crimes. And this is Article 7 of the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. Based on this, in December 2017, in the middle of our research, we took decision, and together with the Ukrainian Helsinki Union and Prosecutor's Office of Crimea, we addressed the International Criminal Court with the proper petition on this military crime, and we identified at that time 1,513 people, and out of this number, we provided this petition. So if we are speaking about violation of human rights, we should draw attention to the fact that such expulsion, they violate rights on free movement, and also the rights of people in these territories, the foreigners, and the rights of foreigners, and also the violation of Article 5 of the Convention on the right of freedom, Article 8, and why there are violations of Article 5, because many of the citizens who are expelled, this is done forcefully, and people are placed in temporarily detention facilities, and the foreigners also held there, and these centers where our citizens are held. This is Stavropolsky Oblast and in Rostov-on-Don, because they do not have such centers in Crimea, and after the decision is taken by the court, such people, they are held in custody and they are brought to the territory of Russian Federation. For some time they are staying there in these centers, and only after this they are given back to the authority of Ukraine. So I would like to say that based on the results of our research, we took decision to prepare special edition of thematic report, and we provided for 4 years, and in June this year we've presented this overview on the summer session of the Parlier, and this is and this we have also this report in Russian, and the success of our research, it is based on the fact that we do this work not on our own. We have good contact with the Prosecutor's Office of Crimea, and those results that we have now, they are accessible for the Prosecutor's Office of Crimea and also for the Ministry of Justice of Ukraine, and I really hope that Prosecutor's Office and the Ministry will properly use the data we got in the framework of our research. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I would speak in Russian because my Ukrainian is not very good. My name is Oleksandr Kovalchuk, 1972 years of birth. I lived till 2011 in Kiev, and then I moved to Yalta because of the health condition. After the occupation, all people who were not registered in Crimea, they were forced to go to courts to prove that they, to confirm that they have the right to be registered in Crimea. I went to all the instances of justice. Such people as me, they were responded in court that there are not enough proofs, although all documents were presented that the person for many years have been living in Crimea. In November 2017, my neighbors were visited by the Federal Security Service of Russian Federation. They were asked where my dog lives, where the host of this apartment is, and the neighbors asked why I was sought. The answer was that he was preparing a sabotage act near the electricity grid towers. So I think that according to their response, I could have been in jail for 10 years. When they knocked on my door, they asked my documents, so I demonstrated my Ukrainian passport. I was taken to the migration unit. I was said to leave my passport, and when I am back in 10 minutes, they told that I am in the base of Frontier Guard services, that I allegedly entered the Crimea in 2016. Then I was brought to Yalta court as if I came to Crimea only in 2016. I was said that I would be arrested for the violation of the immigration regime, and I would be forcibly expulsed to Krasnodar region of Russia, and you should accept your guilt, otherwise you would need time and you do not have it. So I was forced to sign that I am guilty. On November 28th I crossed this border, which is virtual between Crimea and Russian Federation and Ukraine. I am here to tell that the people who live in Ukraine, and for some reason I sometimes hear such opinions that these people, they wait for Russian world to come. On the case of me and thousand other cases, you should understand that we are the second grade people for the Russians. As soon as they enter the territory of other country, they try to threw away these people of the second grade, these native citizens. So I woke up in the territory of occupied Crimea, and now that is why I am here to tell my story, to warn you. My name is Ivan Lischyna. I am the Deputy Minister of Justice and the Commissioner on Human Rights. The Office of Commissioner of European Human Rights Court from the first hours of the annexation has been taking an active part in representing Ukraine in the UCHR in the cases against the Russian Federation on the international scale, which are to oppose this annexation with legal tools. There were two claims filed. The first was from the very first hours of the annexation and occupation of Crimea in 2014. Then the next claim also was filed in 2015. This year the UCHR transferred the claims consideration to the Grand Chamber, which joined these two claims into one. Now the Grand Chamber of the European Court of Human Rights are trying this case on Crimea. In 2014 to 2018, the Secretariat provided the additional information as to the circumstances of the annexation, which demonstrated the mechanisms of conquering the Crimea. It was not the people's festivity which resulted in the uniting of Crimea with its native land. It was a special operation in which large forces of special security services and the army units were used. All this information was collected and transferred to the European Court of Human Rights, in particular to the Secretariat of the Commissioner. The Secretariat provided the data from 50 witnesses on the violations during the start of the process of occupation. Now the new claim has been prepared as concerned political prisoners of Ukraine who were captured in Crimea, both Tatar activists and pro-Ukrainian activists and just civilians who were in jail just by chance. Next week we will file it. We are finishing finalizing the documents. Then, according to our agreement with the lawyers, human rights defenders, we will address this large-scale expulsion of Ukrainians from Crimea, the large-scale expulsion of natives, the violation of human rights for the Russian Federation. This is a standard practice which happened in Georgia. Georgians lived in the territory of the Russian Federation. They also were expulsed. And there are claims in the European Court of Human Rights as to this expulsion, and the Office of the Commissioner on Human Rights, along with the Crimean Prosecutor's Office, who we are thankful very much for the documents concerning political prisoners of Ukraine. We will prepare one more governmental claim against the Russian Federation concerning the circumstances of this case. Thank you. Good afternoon. Deputy Prosecutor of the Autonomous Republic of Crimea, Ponochovnyi, Ihor. I would like to summarize the information about the cooperation with international lawyers, institutions, and international courts and European Court in compiling the claim to the UCHR or illegal expulsion of Ukrainians from the territory of Crimea. The Prosecutor's Office of Crimea conducts the process administration concerning the military crimes on this territory, because the Russian Federation used the army to annex the peninsula, so the whole period of occupation is a military conflict. This is proved in the annual report of the International Criminal Court's Prosecutor's report. And also the facts of expulsion, they are covered by this report. There are 3 lines which we researched: the forced expulsion by court decisions. As Mr. Roman said to us, in this work we cooperate closely with international advocacy organizations, because they have more capacity, higher capacity of monitoring of relevant registers of the Russian Federation, so that to get necessary information. Also, we research legal movement of the prisoners who were in the detention institutions on the territory of Crimea as of the date of occupation, and then they were brought to the mainland Russia. And we research colonization of Crimea, as also Roman said to us, the cases when Russia, at the level of national and regional programs and policies, creating Crimea favorable conditions for bringing to the territory of Crimea of the residents of Russian Federation their social workers, such as doctors, law enforcement officers, who are brought and given the jobs instead of those people forcibly expulsed from Crimea. These facts are being researched, and we exchange information with international advocacy organizations, human rights advocacy organizations, to defend the rights of the victims of these violations, and also to prove the guilt of the occupational regime by sending the guilty acts to the national courts, and by collecting the proofs for sending further the messages, the information and communications which will help the International Criminal Court to issue relevant verdicts. I would like to address all IDPs from Crimean territory. Those people who are either here in Ukraine at the places of their relatives, or who are in the places of detention in the territory of Russian Federation, they have the right and chance to address Prosecutor's Office of Autonomous Republic of Crimea, both in Kherson or Kiev. And if people fear for the health and life of themselves and their relatives, we create maximum safe conditions for you so that you can address us, and cooperation with us will be the good proof for the International Criminal Court, because the prosecutor of the ICC, they said that the best proofs, the most valuable proofs of the ICC witnesses, evidences. So please, I would like to invite the victims of this conflict to come to us, because you will help for the ICC to give relevant and proper assessment of the events in Crimea.
Attack TV channel about statistics. Do you have the data about those who flee Crimea starting 2014 till now? So you said that you can address through Skype. Do you have statistics? And what is the number of people who addressed Prosecutor's Office, and are there decisions about these cases, and what are the stages of these cases? About statistics, we have a lot of statistics. Human rights organizations, they have their own statistics, they have broader data, and we have narrower statistics. We may speak only about the figures that are properly proved in the framework of criminal proceedings. So the work is ongoing. People are interviewed, and NGOs help on this, and the legal decisions on expulsion are considered, and the work in this area continues. Speaking about statistics, I think that if we're speaking in 2017, 2018, 235 people were expelled from the territory of Crimea, and also we have valuable information from one of the human rights organizations. We have full data about people who were deported from the territory of Crimea, and now we will have measures implemented to search for these people, to ask them to cooperate with us. Sorry, I would like to add. I'm going to speak Russian. People who cross the border between Ukraine and Crimea, even if they are deported, they do not go and declare about themselves. My case was unique because an acquaintance who lived in Simferopol, he proposed to me to address the journalists in Kiev, and only by this way the information about me was provided to the Helsinki Human Rights Union. I didn't have the plan to address and to say about my deportation. I could just dissolve in the territory of Ukraine and to continue my life as a citizen of Ukraine. So people who come from Crimea, they are not revealed easily if they do not want to declare about themselves. And I would like to specify, and why don't people address whether they are threatened? Maybe they are afraid because their relatives are living in Crimea. I would like to answer this question. Why? Because every day I face such situation, I analyze these situations. First, an example of Oleksandr is not unique. I would like to say that this is a common practice when a person is provided with a choice. You are leaving, or we accuse you of terrorism, and the next day you will be the person who will be detained. So this is first. I'm sorry, but I'm not saying that I'm unique because I'm deported. I've said that I'm unique because I declared about this here in Kiev, and people, they do not declare. They just come and live as simple Ukrainians. They do not address Helsinki group, and no one knows about these people. I agree with this completely, because we have examples when out of 15 interviews that are carried out with a subgroup of people, only one person who is now in Ukraine, here in mainland Ukraine, only 1 out of 15 agrees to protect the rights. Those who flee from those territories, those who have independent controlled exit out of territories. These people, they have relatives there in those territories, acquaintances, friends. Many people have property there, and people, they fear because of this, and they keep silence because of this. I would like to say that only a small amount of decisions are appealed against, and if we're speaking about people who were expelled, even less decisions are appealed against. So people who go through this terrible thing, when they are in mainland Ukraine, they just want to forget about this. And they even agree, they understand that during 5 years, even 10 years, they won't be able to go to the territory of Crimea. And they even agree to this in order not to go through all this again. This is very difficult work, and I believe that the state should think about this to provide necessary psychological support for these people when they come here. Thank you. Not only 5 years of ban to go to Crimea, 5 years of ban to go to Russian Federation. But I do not want to go there. Next question, please. Crimea News Agency. I would like to specify. So this crime of expulsion committed by the occupants. So they replaced the population of Crimea. Citizens of Russia come to Crimea and they are placed there. They buy property, houses, they have their business there. I would like to try to provide a forecast and to say what is going on in Ukraine. So, for example, in case of deoccupation, what can our power do? What opportunities in the legal area we have? Because these are Russian colonists that come to Crimea to live there in times of occupation. And this forceful settlement, is it considered as a separate crime? So the colonization and deportation from Crimea and colonization of Crimea by Russians, this is a military crime. covered by Geneva Convention number 4. So this is both expulsion and settlement in Crimea by people from Russia. So this is a military crime. How can Ukraine oppose? It is difficult to say. Ukraine does not control the territory of Crimea. We do not have control over the territory, and we can only provide recommendations. This is a military crime, and we should say about this, and this is illegal. But, as I know, as I understand, there are no proper mechanisms to counteract colonization of Crimea. The country does not have control over those territories. Maybe I am mistaken. Let me add, I would like to note that the movement of peaceful population to the occupied territory is the violation of international humanitarian law. So it is banned by Part 5, Article 49 of the Geneva Convention, when we are saying about the responsibility, criminal responsibility, and the article in international documents. We are speaking about the Rome Convention, and in its article number 8.2.7, this article bans such actions. And also Article 8.2.b.2.8, sorry. Also this is about expulsion and the movement of persons from the territory of Crimea, and this is Article 7. We are speaking about crimes against humanity in this article. So who is responsible? So these are those people who are resettled from the territory of the Russian Federation to the territory of Crimea, and those persons, we cannot say that they can be brought to the criminal responsibility. The responsible are those who carry out such resettlement. We mean the signing of proper governmental documents that simplify the process of movement and provide benefits to such people, to motivate such relocation. Why this territory is populated in such a way. So they try to show that situation is good there, and they want to resettle many people. They want to show that people like the situation there. So in this way they squeeze out those people who are not loyal to the regime, because those people who are loyal, the number of such people increase, and people who disagree, they cannot oppose. And if you are one among 500 or 1,500, so the situation is more difficult for people who oppose the regime. So when not 500 people are against you, but 1,500 people are against you, it is more difficult to oppose. So the top management is in charge. They should be blamed and convicted by the International Criminal Court. So there are also mechanisms within international law, and the prosecutor's office can start such criminal cases, and may have them here. But how in this way can we get access to these people? To serve a charge to them, to bring them to responsibility, and to bring them to court. So the situation should change in the territory of the Russian Federation. Otherwise, we cannot speak about this, that the national mechanism may work. So we should take into account that people who commit such crimes, they even do not understand that they commit such a crime, and they travel around many countries of the world, and Here, the work of our special services and prosecutor's office and other bodies are needed. They should cooperate in order to reveal such people and to provide the petitions to bring these people to Ukraine in order to prosecute them. Also, there is a mechanism of universal jurisdiction that allows in some countries to detain such people and to bring them to criminal responsibility in the territory of those countries. So, this is known not only to the Ministry of Justice and Human Rights activists, this is known to the Prosecutor's Office of the, and to the, it is known to SBU, and I believe that this work is ongoing. So I would like to add to this question of yours. So we should prepare the legislative level to the fact that when Crimea is returned, and it will be returned, maybe it will be really done really quickly. So those people who came from Russian Federation there, we should have requirements to those people. They should have Ukrainian citizenship or they should leave. So we should do this now. For example, if the regime changes, we won't understand what to do with these territories. So if we should regulate this issue on a legislative level. Does Ukraine have its own position, its own view on the occupation, whether all these people will be expelled or the situation will be different? We speak about common people. If, for example, we have such a legislation, if there is such a campaign to explain to people about the situation, maybe people won't go there, I mean from the Russian Federation. Do we have such a policy? Is it elaborated? So maybe it is elaborated, but we representatives of NGOs, we do not know about this. We know about some discussions in some circles, in human rights defense circles. You understand that in our community we do not say that everyone should go to prison. We think how to change the situation, and so those people who are moved to those territories, their rights also should be preserved after the occupation. So we shouldn't place them in the wagons like it was done in 1944 by Stalin, when he placed the people in the wagons, in the railway cars, and brought them out. So we shouldn't bring them in the railway cars. We just should inform those people from the Russian Federation when they buy property in Crimea. They should understand that the property in Crimea legally after the occupation, their rights for this property will be cancelled automatically, and in this way they will be able to think whether they are going to do this. So, and this wave of Russians who go to Crimea, this wave will be smaller. Tell us, please, those people who were expelled from Crimea, are they recognized officially as IDPs? Maybe you have some statistics on this. Who knows about this? Let me answer. I would like to explain. Not all people who are expelled from the territory can be provided with such a status. There are people who came to the occupied territory after the start of the occupation. So this is a person, for example, from Ivano-Frankivsk, Lvivsky, Ternopilsky Oblast. For example, this person went to Crimea to earn some money in some business, then this person was detained and expelled from the territory, and we may not say that they have the grounds for getting such a status of IDP. And when we're speaking about those people who were living in this territory in times of occupation, these people are expelled in 2014 or now, and all this period. So these people, they can get the status of IDP. They have the status by this fact because they were displaced, and they should have the certificate to confirm the status and use it in this opportunity. I would like to say that the status of IDP, this is not about the certificate. This is about the fact of displacement. If the person is displaced, he has such a status. And do you have statistics about those people who were expelled? And what is the number of people who came from there after annexation? Out of the number of people we've mentioned, 2,425 people, out of them 493. They, those people who were born there, who worked there, and Konstantin Syzarev, he was born there and he lived in those territories all the time. So those people who have families there, someone was in civil marriage, others were in registered marriage, and some people have children there. Konstantin Syzarev, he has 2 children there. Those people who have social connections, those who have houses there, and who spend a lot of time in Crimea. So I've mentioned so these are 493 persons out of 2,425 people. So we should establish a contact with each of them and to have an interview with them, because the analysis of the text of the court decisions, it does not often provide this information, because this decision is 1 page. It says so the name of the person is mentioned, the violation of the Russian code is mentioned, and then the decision of the court. It doesn't say that he has a wife or mother or father there. So I'm speaking about those people, 493 people. So the documents were provided about the facts, and this document confirmed the facts, and also those with whom we had an interview, and we found those connections with other people through these interviews. Thank you very much. This is the end of press briefing.